Let me tell you something. I've been to a lot of uncomfortable places in my life. Job interviews in rooms that smelled like judgment, hospital waiting rooms, crowded DMVs in July. But nothing prepared me for that Saturday at my Aunt Bernice's house in Stone Mountain, Georgia. The invitation had been sitting on my kitchen counter for 2 weeks. Cream-colored card, gold lettering, the Robinson family reunion. Dressed to impress. I almost used it as a coaster. My name is Brian Robinson. 31 years old. I run a private equity consulting firm out of Atlanta, and I drive a 2009 Ford F-150 with a cracked passenger mirror and a bumper sticker that says Georgia Tech alumni that I keep forgetting to peel off. But here's what nobody in my family knew. I also own a Maserati Quattraport that I keep in a private garage 3 blocks from Aunt Bernice's house. Before you ask why, I'll tell you, because I learned a long time ago that people treat you differently when they know what you have. I wanted to walk into that reunion as just Brian. Plain. Ordinary. Not impressive. Not threatening. Just me. My mother, Sandra Robinson, called me the morning of the reunion. Her voice had that particular sweetness she uses when she's already anxious. Baby, please don't embarrass me today. Your cousin Marcus is coming. He just got promoted. Brand new BMW. You know how your Aunt Bernice gets. I held the phone against my ear and stared at the F-150 through my window. Mama, I'll be fine. She paused. A long pause. The kind that says everything her mouth won't. Just comb your hair, Brian. I hung up, grabbed my keys, and made a decision that would change everything. Stone Mountain in August smells like cut grass, charcoal smoke, and old money pretending to be new. I pulled the F-150 into Aunt Bernice's driveway at exactly 1:47 p.m., and I felt the energy shift before I even killed the engine. The driveway was already crowded. A silver Mercedes. 2 Lexus. 1 white, 1 pearl. And dead center, gleaming like it had been detailed that morning and probably had, was a midnight blue BMW 5 Series. Marcus's car. I knew it before I saw the personalized plates. Mercswag. I almost laughed out loud. I stepped out of the truck. Car keys, a white linen shirt, clean white forces. Nothing flashy. My cousin Gloria spotted me first from the porch and hollered, "Brian, boy, you still driving that old thing?" People turned. I smiled and waved. "She still runs," I said. That should have been enough. It wasn't. My Uncle Raymond, Bernice's husband, walked over with a red Solo cup and a smirk I remembered from childhood. Raymond was the kind of man who measured your worth by your car payment. "Brian, my man. Boy, you need to trade that truck in. How you pulling up to a family reunion in a Ford, son? You out here looking like you came to cut the grass." The porch erupted. Laughter, hollering, the particular sound of family who has decided you are the punchline for the afternoon. I felt something tighten in my chest, not shame. Something older than shame. Something I'd been carrying since I was 17, and Raymond told me I'd never amount to anything because I didn't play football. I smiled. Kept it easy. "Good to see you too, Raymond." But inside, something quiet woke up. Something patient. And it started watching the clock. Marcus Robinson didn't just arrive, he performed. The man stepped out of that BMW like he was walking onto a red carpet. 6'2", tailored cream linen suit, gold watch catching the Georgia sun like it had been commissioned for that specific moment. He was 29, 1 year younger than me, and he had been Aunt Bernice's favorite since the womb. "That's my boy." Bernice screamed from the porch, and I watched grown adults part like water. Marcus did his rounds, handshakes, side hugs, a laugh loud enough to rattle windows. He was in pharmaceutical sales. Not a doctor, not a researcher, sales. But the family talked about him like he'd cured something. He spotted me near the cooler and walked over with a grin that was half genuine and half performance. "Brian. Bro. You actually came." "Wouldn't miss it," I said. He looked past me at the F-150 and shook his head slowly, like he was grieving. "Man, I keep telling you, you work in finance, right? How you still in that truck? That don't look right." People judge you, cause. I know, I said simply. He tilted his head, confused by my calmness. Marcus had never figured out how to argue with someone who wasn't arguing back. I got a guy at the dealership, he continued. Hook you up. No more showing up to events looking like. Like what? I asked. His jaw flexed. He smiled again, the performance smile. Like you ain't doing well. I looked at him for a long moment. Nodded once. I appreciate the concern, Marcus. I grabbed a water from the cooler and walked away. Behind me, I heard him say something to someone and heard laughter follow. But I was already thinking about the garage 3 blocks away. And the keys in my pocket. Bernice Robinson ran family gatherings the way pharaohs ran Egypt. Absolute authority, no appeals, and total confidence that her version of reality was the only one that mattered. She was 63, wore the same church hat she'd worn since 2008, and had a gift for backhanded love that could strip paint. She found me at the food table. Brian, baby. She cupped my face with both hands. You look tired. You eating? You look thin. Not thin fine, thin stressed. I'm good, auntie, I said. You still doing that computer money thing? Private equity consulting. She waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. Marcus just made regional sales director. You know what that comes with? Company car allowance. Full benefits. That's real money, Brian. Stable money. I nodded. You should call his manager. Marcus could put in a word. Auntie. I'm just saying, there's no shame in starting over if what you're doing isn't working. I looked at her. 63 years old, the woman who used to braid my hair when I was 5, genuinely believing she was helping me. That was the part that hurt. Not the arrogance, the sincerity. What I'm doing is working, I said quietly. She smiled with her mouth but not her eyes. Then why you driving that old Ford, baby? Because I wanted to. She laughed, the laugh adults give children when they say something adorably foolish, and patted my cheek. You always were strange, Brian. Just like your father. She walked back toward Marcus, back toward the laughter and the spotlight. And I stood there holding a plate of potato salad, wondering at what point I'd decided these people's opinions needed to stop costing me sleep. That point, I decided. Right then. Her name was Camille Okafor, and I almost didn't notice her. She was sitting away from the noise, under the big oak tree near the back fence, shoes off, a book face down on her knee. Natural hair pulled up loose, simple yellow sundress. She wasn't performing for anyone. In a yard full of performance, that made her impossible to ignore. I walked over because it was either that or listen to Raymond explain the BMW's horsepower for the 4th time. That seat taken. She looked up. Her eyes were sharp, the kind that assessed and decided within seconds. Not unless you're about to talk about somebody's car. I laughed. My first real laugh of the afternoon. I'm Brian. Camille. I'm Marcus's girlfriend. Or I was, as of this morning. We're in a complicated place right now. She said it so cleanly, with so little drama, that I respected it immediately. Rough day for you too, then, I said. What happened to you? Got roasted for my truck. She looked toward the driveway. The F-150. Yep. It's a nice truck. Nobody else thinks so. She tilted her head. Do you care what nobody else thinks? I paused. I'm working on it. She smiled, not the performance smile. A real one. Me too. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then she said, almost to herself, Marcus told me once that money is just a way of keeping score. I asked him who decides what a win looks like. He didn't have an answer. I looked at her. What did you decide? She picked her book back up. That I'm done playing his game. I didn't know it yet, but Camille Okafor was about to become the most important person at this entire reunion. Nobody expected the valet. That was Aunt Bernice's doing. Apparently Marcus had suggested it. Mama, "These are nice cars out here, you need somebody professional managing the driveway," and Bernice had hired a valet service from a company downtown. 2 young men in white shirts and black slacks arrived at 3 p.m., professional and quiet. What nobody knew was that I had called that same valet company at 9 a.m. that morning. Before I drove the F-150 to the reunion, I'd driven the Maserati to a parking garage 2.5 blocks away on Henderson Mill Road. I'd paid for the day, tipped the attendant, and then walked back and driven the truck. I left specific instructions with the valet company. At 4:30 p.m., have someone retrieve the Maserati from the garage. Bring it to 14 Robinson Court. Ask for Brian. At the time, it felt like a private joke. Something just for me. A little pocket of satisfaction I was carrying around while the family performed around me. But somewhere between Bernice's backhanded prayer and Raymond's third commentary on my truck, it stopped feeling like a joke and started feeling like something necessary. Camille glanced at me when the valet arrived. "You're very calm," she said. "I'm waiting for something," I said. "What?" I checked my watch. 4:12 p.m. 18 minutes, I said. She stared at me. Something shifted in her expression, curiosity moving toward something else, something closer to anticipation. Meanwhile, across the yard, Marcus had gathered an audience near his BMW. He was explaining the trim package, the sound system, the lease terms. Uncle Raymond was nodding like he was in church. My mother found me and whispered, "Baby, please don't cause a scene." I looked at her. "Mama, I'm just standing here." She studied my face. And for the first time all day, something in her eyes said she wasn't so sure anymore about which son she should have been worried about. The moment arrived quietly. One of the valets, a young man, maybe 22, name tag said Matthew, walked up to me across the yard. The party was at full volume. Music, laughter, somebody's nephew hitting a pinata shaped like a dollar sign. Classic. "Mr. Robinson." Matthew said, voice low, professional. "That's me." He held out a key fob. Black. Trident logo in the center. "Your vehicle is out front, sir." I took it. Calm. Like I was accepting a napkin. But the yard had gone quiet in that particular way yards go quiet when something has shifted and nobody can explain why yet. Bernice looked up from her conversation. Raymond turned. Marcus was mid-sentence about his lease terms and just stopped. Camille stood up from the oak tree. I walked through the yard toward the front driveway. People moved without knowing why they were moving, just following that invisible current that runs through a crowd when something is about to happen. I came around the corner of the house, and there it was. Maserati Quattraport GTS. Carbon black exterior. Tan leather interior visible through the tinted windows. It sat in the driveway like a quiet statement, not loud, not showy in the way Marcus's BMW was showy. It was the kind of car that didn't need to announce itself. It just existed, and everything around it adjusted. The yard went completely silent. I mean, the music stopped. I don't know if someone cut it or if the universe just made that decision. But for 3 full seconds, nothing in that yard made a single sound. I pressed the fob. The lights blinked once. A polite little flash. Click. Then I turned around and looked at my family. You know what's louder than shouting? Silence from people who always have something to say. Raymond's solo cup was halfway to his mouth and just stopped there. Suspended. Like time had personally intervened to make sure he got the full effect. Aunt Bernice's church hat tilted slightly to the left. She was staring at the car, then at me, then back at the car, with the expression of someone whose math isn't adding up. Marcus. I want to tell you about Marcus's face, because it was the most honest I'd ever seen him. The performance cracked. The regional sales director title cracked. The cream linen suit and the BMW lease and every single comment about my truck, all of it just cracked, right there in Bernice's driveway, and underneath was just a 29-year-old man who had built his entire identity on being the most impressive person in the family, and had just discovered there was a room he'd never even known existed. My mother had her hand over her mouth. Not performing shock. Real shock. My cousin Gloria said, quietly, oh wow. Matthew the valet stood to the side, professionally unbothered. He'd clearly seen things. I didn't gloat. I want to be very specific about that, because this story is not about revenge. I stood by that car and I felt something release in my chest that had been locked up since I was 17 years old, and Raymond told me I'd never amount to anything. I felt free. Camille walked up beside me. She was smiling like someone who had just won a bet with herself. 18 minutes, she said. 18 minutes, I confirmed. Then Marcus finally moved. He straightened his jacket, cleared his throat, and started walking toward me. And the look on his face was no longer performance. It was something raw. Something I had never seen from Marcus before. It was respect, and he hated that it was. He walked up close. Close enough that it was private, even though 30 people were watching. "That yours?" Marcus asked. "Yeah." He looked at the car for a long time. His jaw was tight. He was doing the mental math, the same math everyone was doing, and the numbers weren't fitting inside the story he'd been telling about me. "How long?" he asked. 2 years. "And you drove the truck today because I wanted to see how people talk to me when they thought they had something I didn't." Marcus went very still. "That's cold, Brian." "Is it?" I said. "Because you opened this morning with telling me I looked like I came to cut the grass. Your daddy called me an embarrassment in front of the whole family. Your mama told me to call your manager and start over. And all I'd done was show up. In my truck. Which I own." He didn't have an answer for that. Marcus was a salesman. He was good at filling silence. But this silence, he couldn't fill. I wasn't trying to. "You were," I said. "Not angry. Just honest. You were trying to establish the order of things. Where you sit. Where I sit. I've been watching you do it our whole lives, Marcus. And I'm not mad at you. But I need you to understand something." I looked at him directly. I never needed your validation. I was just too young to know that. Marcus looked down at the ground. The showman was gone. What was standing in front of me was just my cousin, complicated, competitive, maybe a little broken in the same ways we all get broken growing up. He nodded, slowly. Then he looked up and said something I didn't expect. "I didn't know, man. I genuinely didn't know." And for the first time in a long time, I believed him. Aunt Bernice came for me next. She walked over with her church hat still slightly tilted, and that expression she gets when she's trying to reconstruct her authority after an earthquake. Her voice was lower now. The audience tone was gone. "Brian, why didn't you tell us?" I looked at her. "Tell you what, Auntie?" "That you were doing all this." She gestured vaguely at the Maserati. "At me. Would it have changed how you talk to me today?" She opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. "Of course. That's why I didn't tell you." The words landed soft, but they landed deep. I watched them work their way through her. Bernice Robinson was not a cruel woman. She was a woman who had grown up in a world that taught her your car told people who you were, your job told people what you were worth, and that love was something you earned through status. She'd passed that down without questioning it, the way people pass down recipes, without asking whether the dish is actually good for you. "I love you, Auntie," I said. "But I need you to hear me. When you told me to call Marcus's manager, I'm your nephew. Not your project. Not a fixer-upper." Her eyes got glassy. Real emotion, not performance. Bernice didn't cry. She hadn't cried since my grandfather's funeral. But her eyes got glassy, and she pressed her lips together, and she reached out and straightened my collar. "You're right," she said. Barely above a whisper. She walked back to the porch. Slowly. Without the authority she'd carried all afternoon. My mother appeared beside me. She slipped her hand into mine and squeezed once, hard. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. It was getting towards 6 p.m. when Camille pulled me aside, near the back fence, under the oak tree. "I need to tell you something," she said. Her tone had changed. The easy quiet from earlier was gone. She was holding her phone, and there was something tight in her expression. What happened? She hesitated. Marcus knew. I looked at her. Knew what? About the Maserati. She watched my face. Not everything. But he overheard you on the phone 3 weeks ago at the Thompson cookout. You were talking to your business partner, Reggie, I think. Something about moving the car before the reunion. Everything recalibrated inside me. He knew, I repeated. He told his mother this morning. Before the reunion. That's why the valet service, that was Marcus's idea, yes, but it wasn't just about the nice cars. He wanted to make sure, if you did bring the Maserati, it would come out in front of everyone. He wanted to control the moment. The air had a different weight now. So the whole performance today, I said slowly. The comments about the truck. Getting the crowd warmed up. He was setting the stage, Camille said. So when the car showed up, he could play it like he already knew. Like he was in on it. Not caught off guard. I thought about his face when Matthew handed me the key. The crack in it. It didn't work, I said. No, she said. Because you didn't follow the script he wrote. I stared at the oak tree for a long moment. Not with anger, with something more complicated than anger. Sadness, maybe, for a cousin who was so desperate to win that he turned a family reunion into a chess game. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Camille looked at me evenly. Because I'm done being a piece in his game too. I found Marcus at the cooler, alone for the first time all day. Everyone else had drifted inside. The sun was going amber over Stone Mountain. I didn't come with heat. I want you to understand that. I came with clarity. You knew, I said. He turned slowly. No performance left. Just Marcus. Yeah, he said. The valet. The setup. All of it. Yeah. I nodded. What were you planning? Show everyone you were already in on it? That you knew about the Maserati all along, so you couldn't be embarrassed? He exhaled. Something like that. Didn't work. No, he admitted. It didn't. The amber light sat between us. Somewhere inside the house, somebody's auntie was singing along to an old Frankie Beverly record. Life continuing, indifferent to the wreckage of small plans. Marcus, why? I said. And I meant it as a real question. Not an accusation. We used to ride bikes together on this street. We used to be actual cousins. When did this become a competition? He was quiet for a long time. Long enough that I thought he wasn't going to answer. Then, when I didn't get into Georgia Tech, I stared at him. I applied the same year you got in, he said. Nobody in this family knows that. I didn't tell anyone. But I applied, and they waitlisted me, and then denied me. And you went. And everybody acted like it was normal. Like of course Brian gets in. His voice had a fracture in it. I spent 12 years trying to make this family look at me the way they looked at you that day. Standing there in the amber light, I didn't feel vindicated. I felt the weight of what jealousy really costs. Not the person it's aimed at. The person carrying it. I wish you'd told me, I said. He shrugged. Me too. I left Aunt Bernice's house at 7:30 p.m. I drove the Maserati. Not because I was making a point. The point had been made, lived in, and examined from every angle. I drove it because it was mine, and because I was done with hiding pieces of myself to manage other people's comfort. My mother walked me to the car. She ran her hand along the hood, slowly, the way she used to run her hand along my school projects before I presented them. Pride that had been building for years, finally given permission. Why didn't you tell me? She asked softly. Because you would have told somebody, I said. She looked at me, then laughed. A real laugh, the kind she reserves for moments when the truth is too honest to be anything but funny. You right, she admitted. Lord, you right. I hugged her. Long. The kind of hug that says I'm not angry, I'm just grown now. Camille was by her car when I walked past, a sensible grey Honda Accord, keys already in hand. We didn't make any plans. We just exchanged numbers the way two people do when they've recognized each other. "You drive safe," she said. "You too." Marcus was on the porch. He raised his hand once. I raised mine back. Not forgiveness, not yet. But a door unlocked that had been sealed shut for 12 years, and maybe that was enough for now. I pulled out of Robinson Court and drove through Stone Mountain as the last of the summer light disappeared behind the trees. Here's what I want you to take with you. Your worth is not in your driveway. It never was. The people who love you conditionally, based on what you drive, what you earn, what titles on your business card, those people are not loving you. They're grading you. And you don't need to pass their test. You already passed your own.